Remember when one man could walk into a living room full of snarling pit bulls and walk out like Moses parting the Red Sea, but for Pomeranians?
Emotional, excited human is not going to provide stability. It's going to provide excitement.
That man was Cesar Millan, the dog whisperer, the leash prophet, the guy who stared into the eyes of a trembling chihuahua and said, "It's not the dog, it's you." And for a while we believed him, armed with nothing but calm, assertive energy.
I hope that Cesar can teach us how to communicate with the whole pack,
And a camera crew, Cesar turned chaos into order, or at least TV ratings. He wasn't just fixing dogs, he was fixing people. You didn't need a vet, you needed a vibe check. He became a global sensation. Bestsellers, celebrity clients, a dog psychology center that sounded more like Hogwarts for huskies. Even Nickelodeon gave him a kids show. That's how deep we were. For years, he ruled the canine kingdom uncontested.
A full attack?
I think so.
You know, sometimes I come home and I can tell there's been a fight.
But behind the leash snaps and soothing voiceovers, something was festering. Whispers of cruelty, lawsuits, a pig. Because as it turns out, when you build an empire on dominance, people start to ask questions. And suddenly the dog whisperer started sounding more like a red flag. Cesar Felipe Millan Favela was born in 1969 in Culiacan, Mexico, a place known for two exports, cartel documentaries, and apparently
A pack of dogs tired, submissive. So they don't get into active, dominant strategy.
the most famous dog trainer on earth. As a kid, he worked on his grandfather's farm, where legend has it he had a supernatural connection with dogs. They called him El Perrero, which loosely translates to the guy who somehow convinced a Rottweiler to chill.
A tantrum. I don't want to do that. Right? And whoever's holding the leash has to stay calm.
At some point, either at 13 or 21, depending on which version of the myth you read, Cesar crossed the US border with $100 in his pocket and the determination of someone who looked at American immigration policy and said, "Yeah, I'll vibe my way through." He washed cars, lived in one, and started walking dogs in LA. Word spread. Apparently, one dog he trained barked to Jada Pinkett Smith, and she said, "This guy, he's it."
Passing by. And Alice was totally okay with it because she was practicing early to ignore dogs.
She helped him learn English and probably also helped him get a meeting or two. Soon he opened the Dog Psychology Center because dog training place wasn't spiritual enough. The LA Times wrote a profile Nat Geo called, and by 2004, boom, Dog Whisperer with Cesar Millan was on TV. It was the perfect storm, a rags to riches immigrant story, a nation obsessed with misbehaving labradoodles, and a man who spoke with more confidence than your therapist and your yoga instructor combined.
And look, she was looking at the dog across the street. Who triggers the fight?
And just like that, America had its dog messiah. At first, everything Cesar touched turned to kibble-coated gold. But then the questions started. Small ones at first, like, wait, does he actually have any training credentials? Followed by, did he just choke slam that Labrador on national television? And finally, did that dog just bite a pig on camera? Spoiler alert, yes it did. Let's rewind.
Dominance towards her.
She gave her a look?
She gave her a look, and that's when she felt trapped and went after her.
While Dog Whisperer was making millions believe their dogs had inner demons, actual experts in animal behavior were watching and clutching their science degrees in horror. Veterinarians and behaviorists were like, did he just alpha roll a schnauzer? Because apparently, pinning a dog to the ground until it gives up isn't psychology.
To me, it's actually easier living with a pack of dogs than with a single dog.
It's WWE. Critics pointed out that Millan had no formal education in dog training. His methods were based on dominance theory, a concept that most modern behaviorists now classify as outdated, disproven, and borderline medieval. It's like going to therapy and your therapist says, "Have you tried asserting dominance by physically flipping your depression upside down?" In 2012, British TV host Alan Titchmarsh called Cesar's methods barbaric live on air, and the UK's RSPCA agreed, publicly denouncing his tactics as cruel and fear-inducing.
Dogs.
For the next exercise, Cesar asks Karen and Patrick to bring Alice to the Dog Psychology Center.
But the real bite came in 2016. An episode of Cesar 9/11 aired in which Millan tried to rehabilitate a dog by letting it off-leash near a pig. Now, you don't need to be Dr. Dolittle to know how that went. The dog bit the pig, the internet bit back, and animal control launched an actual investigation. Over 10,000 people signed a petition to cancel his show. Millan claimed the pig was fine, and legally he was cleared. But public opinion had already shifted. Suddenly, the calm, assertive whisperer looked a lot more like the guy your dog would call to report you.
Down into a lying position, and that's when you have total faith in Cesar.
And the pig wasn't the only red flag. In 2006, a TV producer sued Millan, alleging his Labrador was nearly choked to death and forced to run on a treadmill at the Dog Psychology Center. The case didn't go anywhere publicly, which coincidentally is how a lot of uncomfortable lawsuits tend to end. Then came 2015. A nurse named Allison Bitney was allegedly mauled by a pit bull that Millan had trained and returned to its owner just 6 days prior. The lawsuit said she suffered permanent injuries. Cesar's team was quick to clarify. He didn't personally train that dog. Translation, it wasn't my choke collar.
That's as far as they can go. I'm building a fence here for her, an invisible fence.
And if that wasn't enough drama for one man's IMDb page, in 2021, gymnast Lydia Matisse sued Millan, claiming his pit bull Junior mauled her and that the same dog had previously killed Queen Latifah's dog. Yes, Queen Latifah's dog. According to the lawsuit, Matisse also claimed Millan attempted to cover up the incident by telling staff to say the dog had been hit by a car. Millan denied all wrongdoing, and the case later ended without a public verdict.
Right away. And after that, she showed tension. After that, she showed nervousness, and then she showed fear.
Again, by this point, the lawsuits were piling up like pee stains on a puppy pad. Meanwhile, in interviews, Cesar began pivoting. He started saying things like, it's not about the dog anymore, it's about the human.
For dinner. I don't let Jay be with them immediately because she'll probably do something like this.
Which sounds deep until you realize it's just another way of saying, if your dog's broken, it's your fault, not my choke chain. Even the editing on his show came under fire. Malcolm Gladwell, yes, that Malcolm Gladwell, noted how Dog Whisperer was clearly edited for drama, meaning all those magical transformations may have involved a few extra takes, or hours, or entirely different dogs. The American Veterinary Society of Animal Behavior, try saying that with a straight face.
Because every time she comes after you, you listen to her.
Well, now she's coming to you.
No, that's fine.
Issued an official position saying that provoking an animal for TV reactions is unethical and ineffective. Meanwhile, PETA and other animal welfare groups began calling him out loudly. And yet, he still had a fan base. Millions of loyal viewers, social media followers, merch sales, live events, for every critic calling him abusive.
You know, like the head all the way down, girlfriend. There you go. That was just a reaction because this is not what she gets every day.
There were 5 suburban dads trying to calm assertive their golden doodle into submission, but the facade was cracking. He was no longer seen as the magical dog shaman. He was becoming that guy, the one who was more likely to get your dog sued than trained. The whisper had turned into a warning. And the irony? Cesar Millan, a man who built an empire by silencing barking dogs.
The dog
Definitely
went after one of them.
Yeah.
But the greatest thing is you are practicing being in control.
Couldn't stop the noise around his own name. If the early 2000s were Cesar's golden era, then the 2000s are, well, whatever you call it, when a show feels like a parody of itself, but no one's in on the joke. Because let's be honest, whatever Dog Whisperer once was, it's now the TV equivalent of reheated kibble. Overproduced, over-edited, and painfully predictable.
Homeboy Industries cannot help when they have out-of-control dogs, so I am happy to come to the rescue.
Every episode feels like it was written by an AI trained on toxic masculinity and vague spiritual quotes. The formula is so rigid it feels like it could be used to train humans. The dog is framed as aggressive, the owner as weak, and then Cesar Millan arrives, radiating the energy of a life coach who just discovered wolf memes. There's a dramatic breakthrough, a lot of meaningful nodding, and finally that familiar stare into the distance.
So he wants to go to the main source.
Followed by something like, the dog wasn't broken, the human was. Even his newer Nat Geo Wild series, Better Human, Better Dog, feels like the cinematic universe version of that one friend who read The Secret and won't shut up about energy. It's all very vibes over science. And while the camera quality has gone up, the substance has gone way, way down. It's not about training dogs anymore. It's about selling Cesar Millan. The brand, the myth, the lifestyle.
This is the way you're doing it is bringing aggression.
Online, the memes are brutal. TikTok is flooded with parody videos of people using Cesar's tactics on everything from toddlers to annoying roommates. One clip shows a guy calm assertive slapping a vending machine. Another just captions a chihuahua mid-bark with, "You are not the pack leader, Chad." Reddit threads joke that Cesar's advice boils down to, have you tried intimidating your dog into inner peace? And honestly, they're not wrong. The internet has caught on to the formula. The once revolutionary approach now feels stale, outdated, and worst of all, irrelevant. Worse yet, his critics have science on their side. Studies continue to disprove dominance-based training. Behaviorists are screaming from the rooftops, this doesn't work long term. It creates fear, not trust. But Cesar, he's too deep into the brand to turn around now, because this isn't about dogs anymore. It's about optics, it's about control. It's about keeping the myth alive, even if the emperor's wearing a choke chain and the audience is starting to notice. And look, the man's still got millions of followers.
Ray brings his wife and children along for his next session with Cesar, this time to focus on Monster's bad table manners.
His TikTok page looks like a fan club for dog dads with unearned confidence. But the legacy? That's another story. Because what was once groundbreaking now feels like a reboot no one asked for, stuck in a loop, selling dominance in a world that's moved on to empathy. The dog whisperer isn't whispering anymore. He's yelling into the void. Cesar Millan was never just a dog trainer. He was a movement, a myth, a motivational poster in cargo pants. He made people believe, really believe, that their dogs weren't untrainable, just misunderstood. That with the right energy, a firm stare, and a perfectly timed shh, anything was possible. And honestly, for a while it worked. Not necessarily for the dogs, but for the humans, oh, it felt like it worked. We bought into it because it gave us hope, because it made chaos look conquerable, because it told us that even the most unhinged Jack Russell could be spiritually rebalanced through dominance and charisma.
Something can happen.
But here's the thing about fantasies. They crack. Under scrutiny, under science, under lawsuits, Cesar's empire, built on energy and eyeballing terriers into submission, wasn't built to last in an era that suddenly started asking, wait, is fear-based obedience actually kinda abusive? And so now we're left with the legacy. On the one hand, a man who inspired millions, popularized dog training, and helped bring awareness to animal behavior. On the other, a walking contradiction, praised by celebrities, condemned by scientists, sued by nurses, and allegedly hiding Queen Latifah's dead dog story like it's state secrets. Was he a genius? A grifter? A guy who genuinely wanted to help but got swallowed by his own brand? Maybe. Probably. Yes. In the end, Cesar Millan didn't fail because he was a fraud.
Ahead of me, like he didn't care. He was just following me. I wasn't following him for a change.
He failed because he believed his own hype, because he forgot the difference between training a dog and performing dominance for an audience. And maybe, just maybe, he whispered for so long he couldn't hear the world yelling back. So, can the dog whisperer be saved? Well, that depends. Can a brand built on outdated science, aesthetic masculinity, and emotional gaslighting evolve? Or is it time we admit that not every bark needs a whisper, some just need a better trainer? Like, subscribe, and comment below, which animal celebrity should face trial next? The cat daddy or that one dolphin from Flipper?